Recording in progress. Okay. Keke, I mean, not Keke. What's your name again? Refilwe. Can you
Wow.
please? I know what I did. Let's just ignore it and move on. Refilwe, you can see my screen, isn't it? My github.com.
Yes.
Okay, great. So
I'm trying to log on my laptop actually, because that'll be better for me.
Okay, there we go. You've just joined us. Great, great.
Thank you. So I'm getting our chair. Okay.
All right. Okay, so
cool.
Guys, this is a recording to help anyone who's struggling or getting stuck with uploading files manually to their GitHub repo. Okay, so I have created, this is a brand new GitHub account that I've created. So the first thing I'm going to do is to create a repository. So thinking in terms of the module 3 assignments where the deliverables are the Jupyter notebook files, right? IPYNB, I think, is the extension. And what we want is to upload multiple files into the same GitHub repository in order to share those to NBViewer. Okay, so what we are going to do, we're creating a GitHub repository, uploading multiple Jupyter notebook files in there. Then we will paste our GitHub URL here. And then this will then launch NBViewer with our files specifically. And just a reminder, the reason why we're doing this is we are going to be able to then load this onto our recruitment profile. So it just gives it a nice visual, accessible way for anyone who wants to view your profile and see your work. So, okay, so let's start with a sample repository. I am going to make it public and I am going to create. Okay, great. Now, what we want to do is we want to.
Sorry, Henry, please just explain to the class why it has to be public.
It has to be public because it needs to be accessible from NBViewer. And it actually, anyone who's viewing your profile, because this is part of the public profile for any potential employers or anyone who wants to see your work, essentially. So it just makes it a lot more accessible so that you don't have to specifically share it with individual people. Anyone and everyone can come onto GitHub and view it either from GitHub or from this link on NBViewer. So NBViewer wouldn't be able to show wouldn't have access to your GitHub profile if it was private. Thank you for the question. Okay, so what I've done is I've created a brand new repository, and what I'm seeing here are examples for initializing this repository. So where I want to go to is to upload an existing file. So I'm going to upload, and then it's really as simple as choose your files. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to quickly do a search for sample Jupyter. I'm just getting any files that I can download, and then just for the sake of the demonstration. Okay. Okay, so this is not part of what you will need to do. This is just, you will have your own files already that you need to upload. So I'm just getting these for the sake of this. And I might even cut out this piece from the video because it's not relevant to what we are specifically looking at. Okay, so I've got some Jupyter notebook files, which I can use to upload. So that's Jupyter source file. Okay, let's look. Yeah, airline. All right, Jupyter. There we go. Okay, great. All right, so what we need to do then is I'm going back to my repository here. So then I'm going to just choose files. Yes, Rafilwe.
Please explain why the preference is for us to not upload zipped files.
Well, zip folders, you can't do anything with them. So what you want to see on your repository, the whole point of having the repository is having version control for individual files. If you have it in a zip, then it's, yeah, you can't really do anything with it, if that makes sense. So there's no reason actually to have it in a zip file. Okay, thank you. All right, so you can either drag and drop, or you can just click choose your files. So let me go to all right, so here's one. And then, so we're going to upload multiple files. That's like the whole point, right? So there's one, text maps. There's a second one. And I think in part one, there were 3 different files. In part 2, there were 6, actually, I think, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. There we go. Population data. All right, I mean, that demonstrates it nice. So now we've got 3 separate Jupyter notebook files, which we're uploading to our repository, our module 3 repository in GitHub. Okay, so that's done. All right, so now part of version control, what we're doing now is we're doing it manually via the graphical user interface, but we essentially are creating a commit, which means we're committing changes to the repository, right? So whenever you are creating a commit, you want to at least label it, and you can optionally add a description about that. So what we're doing here is upload notebooks. Okay, so then we click on commit changes. And now what we have here is our repository. So that's essentially, that's it done. There's our 3 notebook files. So this is essentially how your repository will look. So you don't need to create a separate repository for each different notebook, because they're all part of the same assignment. They're all module 3, part 2. You can upload all of them together. You can even upload all of them into a single module 3 repository. Okay, so the next step from this, now we've got our GitHub URL for this repository, right? So github.com, this is my GitHub username, Henry Mabili, and then we've got the repo name, which is module 3. So that's all I'm going to need, is just to copy that and then go to NBViewer and click on go. And there it is. So it's picked up from my GitHub repository, my 3 notebook files. So then whoever's viewing this can look at each of these separately, depending on which one they click on. Great. So there's now my Jupyter notebook displayed. So it's not actually interactive. It has everything run automatically. But what this does is that it shows your work, essentially. So we are segueing a little bit into, talking about the presentation of your notebooks, but remembering that because we're dealing a lot with code and data, like, it's often not very visual, right? So do your best to give really good explanations at the top about, okay, so what is this notebook about? What was the brief of the assignment? Then through each and every single step, have descriptions, have information. so that at any point, the person who's viewing this knows exactly what's going on. And obviously, you know, the point of a recruitment profile is to prove your capability. So just having the data there is not really going to be enough. What you also need is to be able to convey to the person viewing what you're thinking, how you working, essentially, because that's what they want to see. Okay, yeah, so that's essentially it. Yeah, thank you very much. Any questions? Any further questions?
No, nothing from me. Thank you, Henry. By the
Thank
way,
you.
Madeira helped me with my initial one.
Is it? Did he?
Yeah.
He's a good kid. He's a good kid. Did he help you to upload?
Yeah, so like he showed me how to create a repository. That's how I zip my files, actually.